medically understood.
Hey there, folks. Mark Edwards here, and this is the Ultraviolet Podcast. This is actually going to be the last episode of the Ultraviolet Podcast. I made a community post about this and a Twitter feed or Twitter thread about it, but I just wanted to state it directly here at the beginning of this episode that after this episode, I will not be producing any more content on this channel. The reasons for this are myriad. Editing has become just kind of a big time sink for me, and I'm actively looking for work and just sort of keeping up with the hustle of constantly having to get guests on and editing and all of the other stuff that goes into producing a show like this is just no longer a productive use of my time. I can't really justify it anymore given the financial situation that I'm presently in. So I'm just going to kind of call it quits on this. I've really enjoyed making this show. I've really enjoyed all of the people that I've been able to speak to, and I've really appreciated all the people who have subscribed and listened over the years. It does my heart good. It grows my little shriveled husk of a heart 3 sizes to know that I can just, in my mid-30s, pick up a microphone and start talking into it and get an audience and be able to speak to all the wonderful people that I've spoken with over these last years. So I really appreciated all of my guests, everybody who's ever contributed to the Patreon, everybody who's ever liked or commented or shared a video. I really, really appreciate it. It's meant the world to me. While this will be the last episode of this podcast, I will not be going completely offline. I am doing other projects. The biggest by far is that I'm currently working on an online first aid manual. It's going to take the form of a website where I do skills-based articles that teach you how to do the basic things that an average person can do to survive a life-threatening situation, augmented with short YouTube videos. It's basically going to be a short little textbook that you can easily click through to find what you need quickly, and sort of cut through all of the bullshit and higher level information that most first aid manuals deluge you with, that I find aren't very effective for teaching new people who are just getting into it. Given my history as a paramedic, I've been a medic for 10 years. I've worked in rural and urban settings in EMS. I've also worked in the emergency room of a trauma center. And for the better part of the last year, I've been teaching EMS at the EMT level. I think that producing that document is a better use of my time in terms of generating material benefit for the cause than what I'm doing on this channel, which, while fun and personally enriching, doesn't really produce much in terms of like actually making people's lives better beyond just kind of entertainment value. So that's where I'm going to be headed. You can follow that project by following my alt account on Twitter, which is at medkits101. That's at MEDKITS101. If I ever get a Blue Sky invite, I'll also be on that under MedKits101. And eventually there will be a YouTube channel associated with that where I do short videos demonstrating first aid skills. Initially, I'm going to use videos that other people have produced, but eventually I will do my own. But if you want to follow that project and follow me, continue to follow me online, go follow that Twitter account. There'll be a link in the down there part. I will be closing the Ultraviolet Pod Twitter account, and I will also be shutting down the Libsyn account that's associated with the podcast. So after this month, you won't be able to get this podcast in your podcast catchers like Spotify or Apple or anything like that. I will keep the YouTube channel open because that doesn't really take a lot of involvement for me. It also is free, unlike those other things. So you will always be able to find your favorite episodes of the show on the YouTube channel. I just won't be very active in managing or moderating it. So tread in the comments section at your own discretion. While this interview that you're about to listen to is going to be the last interview that I do plan to go out with a bit more of a bang. I'm currently talking with a bunch of people, a lot of past guests, a lot of people who I had planned to get to come on the show in the future, but for timing reasons, it didn't work out before I have had to shut it down, to do a kind of multi-day, as I'm envisioning it, multi-day might not work out that way, but that's what I'm planning, a charity stream to generate some charity and mutual aid funds to either a friend of mine for their gender affirming surgery, if she's open to that, or just to Trans Lifeline is the current plan. So don't unsubscribe immediately. Stay subscribed, click the notification bell so that you get the announcements for that when it comes out. And we're going to go out with a bang. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to actually do something like really productive to change, if not one person's life, immeasurably for the better, then as many people's lives as we can. So I think that's how I want to leave this platform. I'm going to basically burn all of my Twitter and YouTube lefty clout that I have and use it to try and make somebody's life a little bit better. And I think that will make the 4 years that I've spent doing this time well spent, in my opinion. I want to thank everybody once again for being along for the ride. I've already deleted Patreon. It should be canceled by the end of this month. So those of you who are patrons, you wonderful, beautiful people, the handful of you that there are, you will not get billed again for the next billing cycle. So hopefully that's taken care of automatically on that end. And yeah, that's pretty much the state of the channel. We're moving over to @medkits101 to build that project. But before we do that, there's going to be this big charity stream where we actually do something to make a difference in somebody's life. And then we're going to go out on that high note. But before all of that happens, I am going to give you one last awesome interview with a great, amazing video essayist who is blowing up right now and who has every reason and right to be blowing up. I am, of course, talking about the wonderful and amazing Soulbunni. Soulbunni just released a video called The White Leftist Industrial Complex that gets into a lot of the shittier behavior of a lot of the majority white, quote-unquote, leftist people that operate in the same space that we operate in. And we talk a lot about that, how she came to make that video, why she made it, and just generally shoot the shit and talk some shit and have some fun. And it was a really great interview, and I am proud to say that it will be the last one that I have done. I couldn't have found a better person to go out on a high note with. So thank you so much, Soulbunni, for coming on the show. Everybody go subscribe to her channel, and I will not keep you from that interview any longer. So I give you Soulbunni. It's become kind of a meme on my podcast that I'm really bad at like cold openings and introductions. But we're just gonna jump right into it. Soulbunni, thank you so much for coming on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got back from a like a half walk, half hike with my girlfriend. It's the first one of the year, and I usually like to carry a day pack that I like load up with like 20 or 30 pounds of stuff just for like the cardio. And I haven't done that in a while, and my dogs are barking, but otherwise I'm doing good. So yeah, how are you doing?
Good. It's spring break right now. So everyone's going out. It's bar scene out here in this college town. So it's been a vibe. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, I also live in a college town, and I worked downtown when I worked on an ambulance. I worked downtown, so we would always wind up going to the aftermath of people overdoing it pretty regularly. I got to the point where I was keeping a like a fold up vomit bag, like just ready to go in my cargo pocket, like on a quick draw. Well, you are you are a YouTuber, um, and you have recently been putting out some pretty dope content, and we have all been very happy to see you like coming up, and you're seeing that follower count increase. And I wanted to get you on the show because I like what you've been doing and just talk to you about it. see Whomst is Soulbunni and how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, like, how'd you wind up getting into doing the YouTuber stuff?
Well, it's been a journey. So it first started off. I oversaw what happened to Professor Flowers as a fan.
Yeah,
That was really I felt super seen seeing their content, especially being that there's not really black people in the space, especially at that time. That was 2021 at the time. So to see
yeah,
them get they got dogpiled, and and there's a lot of folks in the space. It was essentially it was very clear racism, but over the stupidest thing that just it was stupid, and it really invigorated, like, it brought up a fire in me to, like, want to speak up for Professor Flowers, and then turned into me editing a video that kinda, like, calls out the nature of what I thought at the time was the rooted problem, which it still is to a degree. But yeah, so it first started off like anger, wanting to like stick up for Professor Flowers to now, because that was a video of last February of last year. But now I'm back in strong and with a whole different goal and approach to there was I have a whole different approach now to video essays and what I even want to achieve with that. So I really want to push with everything that's been going on with the anti-trans bills and the treatment of just LGBT people in general. Like I feel there's a space needed for Black trans folks to really vocalize themselves and really speak on the issues that isn't really covered. So yeah, it started off over like some petty, like stupid, like drama that like a big Twitch streamer started to like now I actually have like a concrete, like actual, like valuable, like approach to YouTube now.
yeah, and I mean, I think that's huge, right? Like, there's not a lot of folks um, with your perspective doing what you're doing right now, and I think it's really valuable to have you out there doing it. Um, where so you want to be like more proactive with your advocacy and like like what are you seeing as like your foundation for that? Like you said you were trying to build that. Where do you see that going?
Um, so basically, I'm trying to transition from doing in-person protests in my college town to like
Hmm.
digital activism. I feel I can reach so much more people doing pretty much the same things I would talk about at my protests or other um, progressive, like organizing things within my college town to something really concrete that I feel um, with the type of voice that I have and my experience, I do feel like I can strongly put together educational videos that would actually reach a larger masses of folks. So that's kind of like I would say like my view of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's yeah. I don't think that we can like really dismiss the value of people just putting out like their perspectives on the world and to into the space for people to just get exposed to it, right? The it's actually like when I had Lou on the first time, that's kind of where we left things. I think if I remember that interview correctly, was just talking about just being exposed to other types of people who are different from you can be incredibly formative and helpful. And um, I like seeing people put themselves out there for that purpose. It's I think it is ultimately very productive. Um, yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. What so you've the last two videos that you put out have been kind of dealing with yeah. So you have the last two videos that you've had out at the time of this recording, which is a couple of weeks before it's going to come out, is the one on transphobia and trans misogynoir, and then the most recent one, as of the time of this recording, on it's titled "White Queer Behavior." And you maybe just want to say some words on just what those videos are about for folks that may not be familiar with your content.
Yeah, so pretty much my trans transphobia and transmisogynoir. That video was like what basically got my attention, like that really broke me into the space. Like truly I felt seen and reached the right people because of within the video I talked very candidly, not just about transphobia, but about transmisogynoir, which is first misogynoir is misogyny towards black women or black femmes, and then obviously trans, specifically transmisogyny towards black trans women and black trans femmes. Was a particular type of discourse that it's never really shined on, and to the degree that it's needed to. The discourse is a lot of the times, if it is, it's very surface level about like statistics. So it's a video that's past just basic general statistics. I actually showcase a really deep explanation and insight into how does it feel to be a black trans woman, and what are our fears about our plight, and how do we feel about our cishet community, even within the black community and politics in there, and then the bigger trans community. Now, a lot of folks take an all lives matter approach to trans issues. So I try to like redirect the attention to, the need for intersectionality. Now, as far as for white queer behavior, I kind of build upon the wrong approach about how wrong it is to go about the all lives matter approach to trans issues and so on. So the first half of that, it's about Barrett Paul, which it was just a TikToker that essentially just used activism towards black women to build his brand, and he was like the Model S type. So and then got caught up like pandering, and just kind of like broke down that situation and like the flaws in that, and how it's problematic. And the second half about the video is about Keffels. Now that person is a very with having any discourse about Keffels is very difficult. Not I would say difficult, but it's a very like touchy thing because of the nature of their fan base. I'm at a point where I
Yeah.
feel comfortable saying what I need to say, but in general, I do still try to be diplomatic. Like I can feel very
Mm.
strongly, but I'm not gonna like use those words publicly or even in a tweet. I'm just gonna like keep it diplomatic, since at the end of the day, like I want them to be successful, but at the time I dropped it before everything else came out. So pretty much kind of showcase the not just hypocrisy, but just the bad faith narratives and the things that was pretty much like showcasing why black trans folks had an issue for the longest since last summer, of like us calling it out and us being, shadow banned and ignored and mass blocked, and just kind of just went into like the nuances of truly like why, since there's a lot of bad faith and people trying to pretend like
Mhm.
there isn't this like massive amount of like racism or like, just like being reductive towards like black trans issues, and just us like trying to correct certain narratives. So yeah, that's pretty much generally what I go into. I also like dissect because she pushes the term like genderqueer and uses the word woke scold and stuff like that. So I kind of break down a lot of the how that's like kind of harmful to the trans community, and
Yeah.
yeah, so that's pretty much white queer behavior.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on those terms, and how they're used, both inter that community as like a meme, but also just as a pejorative. But I wonder if people listening might not be familiar with that language. Do you mind just kind of giving your brief take on the woke scold and tenderqueer thing, just for people that might not be familiar with that?
Yeah, so woke scold is I would say it's a right wing term, I believe, created by Ben Shapiro, to basically memify and just like disgrace the word woke, which is also a term that is AAVE, African American Vernacular English. I will say uh, woke got colonized by a lot of white liberals, and then it got towards the masses of Republicans that just reduced it when it was a term
Yeah,
that was exclusively used by black people. We kind of felt the need to like we had to let it go. It's kind of like a lot of other
yeah,
words that get colonized. Once it's been played out, we kind of just got to move on and create a new word. But pretty much, yeah, woke school is just essentially just like another way to calling us an SJW, so a social justice warrior.
Yeah.
Then genderqueer. Now that uh, it sounds like to me from what I've saw, there's multiple meanings. So there's people that take it one way or the other, but it can mean both ways. So it can mean one, pretty much what Catholics is doing, which is like weaponizing their marginalization, which is technically, I guess, like what it was supposed to mean, supposedly. Because there's so much just like discourse on this the term genderqueer, but essentially it was for, I guess, leaning towards like white queer folks, white trans folks that want to pretend like they're being trans will like right away like them being white or racism or whatnot, so they kind of deflect with that. So that's essentially what I've heard that's supposed to mean. But as far as how Keffels and other folks in that space use it, they use that to kind of like say that we're sensitive, like very essentially like BIPOC trans people or queer people in general that are volatile, and we just irrationally like fall apart over any type of discourse, or we're very like it's a very like it's a straw man, like it's a whole reverse of what I guess the term actually means. So something around those terms, like it's still a new word to me, so I can't perfectly in the sense of like give all the names, but it is definitely from the way it's been used. It's another. It's like a. I would say it's the queer version of woke school, as I would say.
Yeah, the way I typically see it deployed is it's usually when that community has like there's like legitimate complaints or grievances and that happen to run along lines of intersectionality or what could be referred to as identity politics,
Mhm.
and then that is used as sort of like a way to shut that behavior down. Is you're just being it's basically just being like you're being way too sensitive about this X thing that actually impacts you pretty considerably. It is how I tend to see it used. I don't know if that jives with your
Yeah, definitely the identity politics was the word I was missing in the description of genderqueer. Yeah, because it's another thing. Like it's the whole weaponization of the term identity politics. When trans issues is identity politics, black issues is
yeah,
identity
yeah.
politics. There's identity politics that is needed, but that's like a right wing framing that is being pushed, and something that I feel personally does not belong in the left.
And I think I get kind of annoyed with all that too because there is a there is a legitimate conversation to be had on the left of being critical of what are like liberal identity politics. Like this is a lot of what like Olufemi Taiwo's work is, where you'll have your diversity, equity, and inclusion meeting at Lockheed Martin and then go design bombs that are going to go blow up brown people somewhere, right? Like it's that kind of like really shallow gesture towards kind of surface level inclusivity without actually addressing material change. And that is I think that's a valid line of critique, but then it gets weaponized into anytime somebody brings up something along similar lines that is itself a valid critique of like, hey, no, you're actually just kind of being racist, or um, you know, then that gets dismissed along with the rest of uh, like liberal identity politics. It's used as a cudgel rather than like a lens of criticism by a lot of these people, and so I get annoyed with it at that level just because it's not only is it just racist, which is bad enough on its own, but it's also using something that has validity to be racist, which hobbles you even further. Does that make sense? Like that's
Yeah, that's a perfect explanation of that.
so yeah. I'm not a fan of that at all. I one of the things that and you said that your transphobia and trans misogynoir video kind of is what put you on the map, and um, I think I remember finding you from your first video on the debate bro thing, but I definitely remember the trans misogynoir one, and it kind of resonated with me because one of something that I've thought about a lot. Like I used to be a paramedic. I quit like a year ago, but I was a medic for like 10 years, and I encountered a lot of Black trans women in my line of work, and almost every single one of them was homeless or in other ways like deeply just discarded by society, and it was very clear that our culture does not value um, those people in the way that they deserve to be valued, and it's not something that you hear talked about a lot. So I was very happy to see your video talking about it. Kind of hit me. That's where that hit me anyway.
Yeah, there's the whole aspect of just, in a way, like people completely ignoring us. It's like you can't talk about trans issues without acknowledging Black trans folks and our marginalization of being whether a double or triple or minority and so on and so forth. So there's the whole aspect of not just do we have to deal with society as a trans person, but as a Black person, and especially when you're in America, there's already the lack of care for the humanity of Black people as is. So when you add us being trans, it's just this whole conundrum of just us, the intersecting of oppression from both, not just society as a whole, but from our cis folks, from our own communities. And I got really candid with that on my video about, there's a lot of turf rhetoric within my own Black community when it comes to like the athlete adjacent rhetoric, like chromosomes, sports,
Mhm.
bone density, giving birth, like those type of things, supposedly making us a woman to justify violence and just not giving a fuck about our lives. There's the whole aspect of like the severity of like the poverty that Black trans people experience. Like put aside just our us being almost like three times three th- 30 3/4 of the murder rate in the trans community, but also the whole aspect of just like the lack of resources that us being some of the most marginalized in the community, the multiple hurdles we have to fight, and there's not really that organizations to the degree that it needs to be, or funded to the degree they need to be, or even the discourse. So I needed to bring that up, and I felt that video was just my first step into that because I'm
Mhm.
here to stay and really push this discourse because nothing's going to change if we
Yeah.
keep having just solely white or non-Black folks speak on trans issues and our own plight being missed, or my plight, as I would say specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm glad you said that, because I think there is this sort of phenomenon that occurred right around like a year or two ago, and part of me views that whole like debate streamer video essayist fallout as sort of a part of this, or at least like it was an intersecting conflict. But it was right around the time FD blew up and Khadijah and like Foreign. But there was this notable break in like the online leftist spaces where previously it was pretty much all white people, and it was white people talking about the struggles of other people, um, Black people, queer people, like just pick a thing, but it was pretty much all white people. And then Black folks started like kind of taking the mic and saying, no, we're actually competent to speak on this ourselves. And there was notable resistance and pushback to that. And I feel like part of like the doubling down on the like anti-Black nationalist rhetoric and like that whole radicalization that occurred in the streamer community is sort of an immune response within their community to losing views to people that are now talking about their own struggles because they don't need their white streamer friend to do that for them. It's like, no, we're competent to talk about this ourselves. And I think that's starting with like your channel and Lua and Bellamy and Khadijah, is like there's Black trans folks who are now coming up and talking about their own struggles publicly. But the one thing that I've noticed there that has done my heart well is that everybody loves y'all and wants y'all to do well. There's not that tension that existed before, and I'm just really happy to see that.
Thank you. I do feel that like the climate has changed tremendously within the last 2 years. It went from where I felt like the debate bros or Twitch streamers they had the power to where in a way like people were fearful of us being stung by them, sort of like the beehive.
Hmm.
So the wave of comments and just like narratives that in a way like Loki was we felt like it was like career crushing, especially because of the simplest like the allyship 101 request that we made, specifically allyship 101s. They're the basics that they couldn't do.
Yeah.
And they retaliated. And I feel like because of their doubling downs and tripling downs and whatnot, I feel the catalyst to that was when they went after Cat Black. And that's what my video is about. This is what, or at least what was the core of the video, but it's grown tremendously bigger now. But
Is that the one that's coming out?
yes,
Okay, cool. Listeners who are listening, I have not seen this video, but I'm now really interested in hearing about it. But it will be out when this interview comes out, so immediately go listen, go watch it if you haven't already. But yeah, no, I'm hyped. You're that's the subject of your video is that whole beehive clusterfuck thing,
uh,
or part.
well, so the video is titled "White Leftist Industrial Complex."
Nice, nice.
Yeah. So, the source of the video, like, it originally was just about the ordeal what happened to Cat Black and all the white leftist streamers and so on that all joined in on the dog pile one by one and got their hits in and so on. And, so I was trying to give like a black trans perspective because people were treating it like it was just drama. When it's like, no, like,
Hmm.
you don't realize y'all went after the biggest, the pioneer of black trans thought online on YouTube at least, and just so on. It's like I've been watching Cat Black since I was 12 or 13. I'm 24 now.
Yeah.
So that's someone I watched before I made the decision to transition. And like I was told the clear nuances of the reality that it wasn't going to be easy to be trans, but also just like I really, because I was back in the day when like Cat Black made animations and told stories a lot of
Hmm.
her. So I know that Cat. So it's just to see like, damn, like Cat has really spent a lot of her years tone policing herself and being within like respectability politics to achieve due to the white audience. Like she was, the biggest target from the fucking right before the anti SJW. Like when YouTube was really pushing the alt right pipeline, and so it was very enraging for me to see that. But I would definitely
Yeah.
say it's grown from just that and breaking it down. And I kind of lay out so this video is gonna be out by it'll be out at the end of this week. So
Oh, dope. Okay.
but there's a very particular thing that I'm whistleblowing that I don't know if people know this, but there's I guess I'm trying to get my blast punches in because it's a purging video. It's a purging video just like
Yeah.
FD's drama video was. It was a purging video. We
Hmm.
talked about that in his live. But
Yeah, I saw the clip of it that he published. I didn't catch the live, but I did see that like 20-minute clip.
okay, yeah, there's so I'm treating like a purging by addressing everything, getting it all off my chest, but in a very educational way. Like, there isn't like petty. Like I even feel like the my approach to like editing has changed completely compared to the first time. So this time it's not just so it's like showing like what basically was the downfall of like them, which was the Cat Black, like 'cause that completely divided the entire left. Like that was like the most mask off of all mask off moments I felt because
Yeah.
it blew up how like big to like it got into like J.K. Rowling like trending and just like other aspects. So there's there was that moment, but I also the end of the video because so basically much like the second half of the video is the Cat Black, and then what I felt like was we should have never even gotten to this point, and which was what like was the first thing, was the red flag that should have had us back off these folks, which is the aneurysm conversation
Yeah.
that was just so messed up. And I feel a lot of people don't know about that. I didn't know about it until I decided to research it. I'm like, this needs to go in this video. And this is back in like August when I was editing this, and then like took a whole pause, and then like more things happened, and I just kind of just like keep going back at it with like a new perspective. And so this video has just been morphing and changing for months, and now it's finally
Yeah.
at a point where I feel like I have the right perspective and approach to YouTube now, where I went from being a little too focused on the data, certain talking points, to now to like, let me just talk about it candidly, how I feel and what I point out the core issues that I saw, and keep it going. Like so, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that if the conversation you're talking about is the one that I think you're talking about with Andrew, that or Andrewism,
Mhm.
that had a pretty significant impact on me. That actually, you're talking about the thing with like no name, and
Yes. Yeah, that was even
yeah,
before
yeah,
Professor Flowers. So that was the whole point of the video.
yeah,
Like we should have backed the fuck off when we saw if we saw that. But
yeah. And I've mentioned this a couple of times on in like various interviews, and I actually just in the one I just put out with Feek today, I talk about that, like that incident, like literally changed my channel completely. Like I was, because I was like following Dooman and for like election coverage and like kind of messing around there, and I didn't quite understand what was going on in that community until that happened, and I was like, oh shit, this is not good. And I I was kind of making like React content and like other stuff like that, like, and it just made me feel bad. And then I saw that and was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And like that specific thing is what made me start doing interviews with people, because I was like, I want to do the opposite of whatever the fuck this is that I just saw. Like, I want to make content where I'm talking to people in like a wholesome, productive way where we just are trying to like make a better like online left community. um and just whatever, I just remember sitting there watching it and like I was just like, whatever the fuck I just watched, I want to do the opposite of that. And that is what turned that literally changed my whole channel.
and that's why it's in my white leftist industrial complex video, because it's the core issues of what the critiques that that we have. So there was a part in the video, because um I've had to sit down and rewatch that shit so many times just to get the perfect like clips, and then break those down, because there was so many things said. But it's the whole aspect how Andrew was pretty much like, No Name was right. She's just telling pretty much, No Name was like, sweep your own porch, sweep your own porch.
Yeah,
Don't like come in to like black discourse about us, talking about ACAB or how our feeling about police, and it's like it was a very class reductionist, like, and also watching the debate, the full debate, when you watch it, you see Vosh didn't even look at the whole thread. Like they didn't even know that No Name was responding to a tweet to her. So
yeah,
there's just so much, and it also just like the whole like leftists should be making fucking pound cakes for these edge lord 18-year-old young white left, at least young white boys, because we should pander
yeah,
to white leftists. Like that's not our job. That's what pretty much we're saying. That's not our job. Like you need to work in your own community, your own white community, and handle that. And it took the whole damn debate for Bosch to realize that. And then he started to be like a little egotistical and be like, oh, I'm probably best for that. And that was actually like, well, that was my whole point. That's No Name's whole point. And then he went back on the defense and the offense. And it's just, I kind of save all that for then, like the Cat Black, and because that's like it doesn't start up with Vosh. It went from being just about Vosh and those two moments to like now, like this is a bigger issue because there's another Keffels. So, like again, my video about Keffels, the white queer behavior. That was just how I already felt before, like all the things that happened in Black History Month. Like, come on, like setting people just saying pretending to be black, digital blackface,
yeah,
and I'm sorry, like there was no denying that, and it was just the whole say her name hashtag thing that pushed Jesse Jenner off, uh, bullied off
yeah,
him for that. So I felt the need to include, because the whole video about the concept about the white leftist industrial complex is showcasing white people, white leftists, going about their leftism in the very toxic, problematic way that is not helpful. And it's the complex is them thinking they're, because they have the right politics and this one other, they're helpful in the sense of like, people are bought into the lies of, because they're not, Republicans, and or they're not like racist white liberals, which in a way they give off a very liberal take in their approach to things, but they think that they're not part of the problem, but they are. And it's, just like how I would say that a video that the audience here should watch is the Allyship Industrial Complex by Cat Black on her second channel. Check that out. I think it's Cat Black 2.0. But yeah, so definitely it's a combination of that, and then I segue into Merrick Deville because I want to kind of segue in it, because I'm segueing it from Cat Black to Merrick by showing the digital blackface clipped in from FD's video to kind of show like one other person that popped up in FD's drama video was Merrick. And the reason why I and other folks were triggered seeing her there was because she left out one of the biggest things of why she was quote unquote canceled or whatnot or criticized, is that she spent, who is now her ex, she spent most of her career defending a racist ex boyfriend, SDL. So it's like, how do you completely miss the biggest thing that most people know about and criticize you for it? And to me, it was a very strategic thing that she did, that to like do damage control. But not just that, but it's the fact that she personally went after me. She went after me when in September, telling me to delete my channel, or not delete my channel, delete my first video, my debate bro video, because I included her boyfriend saying the slurs and about black people, very crazy anti-black statements, and then her wrongfully, her ignorantly, it all came to, she ignorantly tried to debate the 1350 statistic, but in an unhelpful, harmful way, because this is not, it's just what she just didn't have the range for that conversation. And I was pretty much correcting her. It was something very simple. And she, this is before I even had like 300 followers on Twitter. She just posted a screenshot of my video, and I'm getting a swarm of like people like saying things, whether it's like on my comments. I was like wondering, like, where are these people coming from? And then I went on Twitter on my second account and saw like what was up, like from Merrick, because they were leaving comments about her. Like, what? So yeah, I pretty much got strong armed in the situation where she tried to like tell me, try to push me to go on her Twitch, her stream. And yeah, so long story short, I got out of the ordeal thankfully, because I tweeted about it publicly and shared a couple DMs to show that we were agreeing to get, if she deleted the tweet thread, that I would come on stream, and I was pushed into that position. So and yeah, so I kind of just want to like kind of showcase this, like, not even like it's not like a petty thing or anything. I'm past it in that sense. It's more like, this is the problem with like you white leftists, that you think you're going about things right, but then you do the most when we correct you. Like, you go and attack us and do the most. And also, she went after Cat Black too. So, and that's how I segue into the whole second half of the video. So it's like very piecing together, just like, this is the problem. This isn't about no drama. This is a very just like, I'm trying to show you examples of people who think they're being helpful, but then, they completely go about it in the most harmful, shitty way. And then, contradictions and whatnot. So yeah, sorry, that was a tangent.
Yeah. No, you're good. It sounds like that's been on your heart for a minute. It's I'm just like I'm really glad, or let me put it this way. I hope that that whole era of online discourse is kind of coming to that like tit for tat, back and forth, swarming of other people for the sake of like clicks is, coming to an end.
I believe so.
Yeah. And I, if you look at like, FD mentioned this when I was talking to him, that like, if you look at their metrics, like, their view counts are like going down, right? Like one or two of them are still swinging pretty hard and doing well, but like for the most part, that whole ecosystem um, has kind of or is starting to like dry up and go away. And at the end of there'll probably be like one or two people who will.
Sorry, I just had to get
What's up?
that laugh out because I'm just laughing
Uh,
because it's so true. It's true as fuck.
yeah. Well, there'll be like one or two people who like they won't even be the thing that they used to be, right? Like they'll be political streamers who probably don't do the debate thing very much anymore. And basically like internet shock jocks, political shock jocks, which is kind of what it is now, right? Like, but the reason that toxicity existed in my mind for as long as it did is because it was profitable, right?
Mhm.
Like,
And they weren't unchecked the
you,
way they are checked
yeah,
now.
yeah, and like it's like you start shit to get drama. Drama generates clicks. Clicks turn into eyeballs on your channel, which is directly tied to your monthly Twitch or YouTube paycheck, right? So, and I don't even think like half these people were doing that intentionally. The good ones were the ones that are still successful. Almost certainly were, because I think to be that good at it, you have good for a given definition of we'll say skilled instead of good. To be that skilled at it, you have to have a level of intentionality. But I think it's also just an ecosystem that's selected for people who did that kind of stuff anyway, and then rewarded that behavior. Um, and I think the culture is starting to move on a little bit, and it just yeah, I hopefully we wind up in a more healthy place in the online space than it used to be. But like, I mean, time's a flat circle, right? We'll probably be. This is basically the same like anti SJW shit from like 2016.
Yeah, it's a Gamergate count still.
Yeah, but it does feel like back then it was essentially just like H bomb and ContraPoints, and this is like everybody else was awful. And now, like, it seems like every time we go round one of these cycles, a few more dope people are left standing, and like it seems like the good stuff ultimately is outweighing the bad as these cycles wax and wane. And I'm not like one of these people that thinks that like all due respect to like Dr. King, I don't think the moral arc of the universe does anything on its own. I think it's up to us to bend it. But
Yeah.
I think it does seem like people are bending things in a positive direction more frequently than they are not when you look at it in the long run.
What you were saying, you're like so spot on, but it's also the whole aspect of like, so I think the foundation of what really shattered that, like I said, was the cat box situation because it was the most mask off where it really split people in the middle, where it was like,
Mm-hmm.
where did you really stood? Like, are you going to drama farm this? Or are you going to actually
Yeah.
call out how this was just really uncalled for? And yeah, so it was just like between those grounds. And I felt that was a very eye opening one because also that was the point where they were on the up, until that moment. That was when uh, not only just the divide, but it was their palace or castle they built was on fire. And people really started taking them less seriously when they went after Cat Black. And from that moment, they have been on a downward spiral, just like from that point on. So, and that's why I felt they needed Keffels because they lacked that the strong attack that they used to. Like I feel like the last person after Cat was Noah that um he went after, but he went after someone that was in his similar ring, like a bigger channel. And I've noticed so in putting this like that, everything is completely like you said. Like there were not only just like because they're that's content is dying out, but it's also just like you can't be involved in drama so much and not expect it to pop back on you. Your own shit come at you, and that's essentially what happened to a lot of people in that space. And I lost interest even further when I was like, you know what, like this is like how I think because there was a live stream that FD had last year. I think last year, I think around March or April. And I remember just sitting there and him because I sent a super chat and he responded and because I was asking about advice about being a black video essayist, and he had saw my video, my debate pro video. So he was pretty much said like, you know, the best thing you can do for your career, YouTube directory of your career of YouTube is to divest from the debate pros. The further you get away from them, the better the trajectory of your channel will be. And I feel a lot of folks were starting to go that way. I started unfollowing a lot of folks. I just kept engaging with that side because I don't follow them, so I only see it when people share stuff. So I feel in general like because there's more of us popping up, more BIPOC video essayists, more trans video essayists, and while that crowd, they've there's been some infighting. There's been just people getting old, tired of the drama farming, and it's an even smaller pool of the people that were strongly going after folks just a year ago. Now it's just kind of just whatever who's in that sphere, but it's to the point where like I feel like I already act like the irrelevant because I feel that way because like they have their audience, they have their following and whatnot, but they don't have the punch they used to have. I'm like I said, I'm going about this diplomatically. Like this isn't like to
Yeah,
kick anyone while they're down.
for sure.
Before she's getting help, she left a mess for a lot of us to
Yeah.
clean up. And
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far as a
yeah.
black trans person, to see a young trans person get murdered, and then people who think they have good intentions to double down and think they can just colonize, say your name, and not listen. And basically, because it was a moment that really showcased what Black trans people have been saying about a lot of the white trans community that only reach across their own aisle of other white trans folks. They don't reach across they don't uplift us. They don't really like have that intersectionality, and it really showcased when someone like Jesse Gender,
Yeah.
who has so much intersectionality, that really was very careful and really the way they explained it and really took their time to be disingenuously attacked and pushed off the platform just really like it shattered me, and it really
Yeah.
showed me like this is like when we have an actual white ally that's going about things right, you sit there and bully them off the platform. So that's and the digital blackface is what's really gotten her on this white leftist industrial complex. So she represents the white queers that I'm
Yeah.
critiquing in that fan base and whatnot. And then we got our white women who's Merrick, and then we got our cishet white men, Bosh. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I mapped it out in the sense. But something I want to say that I want to get off my chest now. So I
Go
expect
for it.
to be targeted. And I pretty much like if I'm gonna be targeted at any point, let me get the shit out of the way now. Let me say what I have to say, and if anyone asks me shit, you can go to my video because it's going to be maybe up to an hour. Like I still have to include a couple other things to really get a sense of how long this video is truly going to be. But I've been really shy with a lot of my videos of like my voice. But this video, I feel because when I put it out there, there's no turning back, and I'm expecting me to be drama farm potentially, because there's out of anyone in this sphere and the other people that I'm using as an example, there's one particular streamer that just the reference to being the source of, or not going to say the source, but one of the first big platforms, the big people with platforms that push this misinformation about Cat Black. So I'm gonna say how the fuck I feel about this. I'm not holding it back. This is my opinions, everyone. I'm gonna say this now. But the whole because you remember when you heard about the sexual harassment claims and pushing the whole the sexual harassment and saying that text messages were shared,
Yeah.
sexting was shared. That never happened. That's misinformation. A streamer named Shark030 was the first like platform to push that, and that probably was what got it to really blow up As far as like, because if it's just fans saying that, or people making shit up, that's one thing. But for you to not fact check and just push that, and when we're talking about a Black trans person, a very not just a marginalized person, but someone that's already at risk, that already deals with a lot of things. Like, there's a way to go about things, and that's kind of more like what I'm like bringing up. Like, this is very harmful. This is not allyship behavior. You can't sit here and go join a dog pile and push misinformation, and not do the basic, because you would expect that. If he would expect that, he would be very mad if I didn't make sure that there's actually receipts or something before you go tweet something about someone. Like, and that's something I feel not only needs to be addressed, but addressed in the sense of like, if you're going to stay to be an ally, like, and as far as in the Black community, because I have this goal to really make my Black leftist community like really truly be intersectional, because I don't want this thing where there's a lot of cis Black people talking about trans issues or like referencing us, but then like I don't see that, and that support institutionality, or you're in a community with us, or you're not stepping on our toes, you're not throwing us to the wolves. And that's an example, a Black trans woman being thrown to the wolves, whether it was for clout or whatever the reason is. I don't care. It was down and dirty, and it needs to be like kind of showcased, in the
Yeah.
sense of like, this is not
I don't
okay.
even remember what like the supposed genesis of all that was. I just remember dude being really mean and shitty to her for no reason that I could tell, and then him threatening to like release the DMs, and she was like, "Oh, bet," and then like like dropped all of them, and I'll admit, like I leafed through them. I was like, "Oh man, this looks real bad. You should have shut the fuck up, dude."
No, for real. It was about like, she just basically asked, "Is it helpful to trans people to use ironic misogyny?" Like, something along
That's
the
right.
line.
That was the whole like J.K. Rowling thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so like for people that aren't as like terminally online as we are, we're gonna go back into some deep lore because this is all just like unlocking like core memories in my mind palace from like so. Vosh
A year
tweeted,
ago,
yeah. Vosh like
literally.
tweeted something about J.K. Rowling where he was like,
On Women's History Month Day.
yeah, yeah, and was like basically just like misogynistic to J.K. Rowling. Ironically, he said as like a because trying to get like a
Don't make me a sandwich. Or women were better when they're quieter.
yeah some shit like that, and everybody like it's like hey man, like that's not cool. Like obviously we don't like her and for legitimate reasons, but like don't do that. And then he, did what people like him and his ilk do and like tripled down. And then it like spiraled into that whole fucking thing where he winds up like telling his community to go after ContraPoints and like getting in like a DM fight with Cat Black. And everything went to shit. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was like a huge fracture point. I'm like, I've been listening to you describe it, and like I've been trying to piece this together in my head, and it just like clicked. I was like, oh, I've repressed so much of all this shit because I now remember when it was happening, and it was just a clusterfuck. God damn, that was rough.
No, yeah, that's like the thing. Like, it was, to me, it just looked like a bunch of white leftists stomping out Cat Black, all their getting
Yeah,
their
yeah,
and over something that she was just, it wasn't even controversial. She didn't even say his name. She didn't
yeah,
even call the wolf to come in. Like, she asked her own community, her own community, her trans community. Like, it just, and then, like you said, the DMs made him look really bad. Okay, so the thing is, like, this is the funny part. So, because I'm talking about my video that will be out by the time this video is out, there's a lot of points where he streams, when he's streaming about this, where he contradicts himself. Like, he misrepresents the way he even conducted himself in the entire ordeal. He tries to act like he was very, mellow, or just like not volatile, or he didn't escalate. He didn't do. He said something along those. He didn't do anything to escalate anything. I'm like, oh, really? And then I let him say that clip, and then I go show all the things he does to escalate.
yeah,
So it's like it's a way where, like, I feel like it was not. I'm making the video that I felt folks did not make about that situation, and it's only just a piece of it now. It went from being solely about that to, like I said, the aneurysm, and then the beginning parts, that white queer cis het white woman, and then cis het white man. So it's that whole kind of build up to really showcase the white leftist industrial complex that BIPOC people and especially Black leftists have to deal with as long as we exist online and exist in America, and where there's a lot of folks that right now it's easier to double down than to actually follow the one-on-ones of allyship.
Yeah, no, it's I'm looking forward to this video now because it just like this whole conversation. I just had like one of those moments where like that like gif of like the dog looking at the cupcake and it's like he's having like Vietnam flashbacks. Where he's just like that's what I'm going through right now.
The
And
ironic misogyny comment is unlocked that memory.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my god, this is just like a year's worth of like hashtag discourse that I've repressed in my little trauma locker. Uh,
Or how like woke Black women, when he said like woke Black women have a white man fetish or dick fetish.
yeah, Jesus
It was
fucking Christ.
It was a
It was
lot, yeah.
bad.
And then
It was
her
real
simple
bad.
clap back got turned into this other thing. Like, you ain't heard what he's saying? He's talking about her titties on stream. No joke.
Yeah.
Talking about her
Yeah,
breasts.
it was real bad.
It
All
was,
right. So
anyways,
like
sorry.
so all right, where do you so once we get all the poison out, where are we headed? Like where do you see Soul
Awesome.
Bunny in a year? And like I know you're trying to like you're really like wanting to do this whole like building this community with all these other folks and like this online space that's going on. Like where do you see that headed in like your space, your place in it? What you want to be doing?
Okay, so with this all purged, I see myself really diving into like a lot of just like Black leftist discourse. Like my next video, I expect myself to be working on, or not my next, but a future video is like about like anime, like being an anime fan while being Black. So I really want to go into that like nerd culture type of like, because there's a lot of
Mm,
racism in that, and then they'll
yeah.
also just like I'm working on this video about I want to work on a video about where I'm from, which is Orange County, which is SoCal.
Okay.
Uh, and growing up Black there because it's the one spot where Trump went down to in 2016 when he was running for president. So that was the only part in California he really, because that's those his people. So growing up, because it's pretty much like a critique about growing up being the only Black person in your class. So I
Mm,
really want to have these very nuanced conversations and what not solely just about being trans, but just like the many discourses as existing Black in many other spaces. So I feel there's a need for artistic Black nerds within
mm,
the leftist space. So, and to really collaborate and really like collaborate with other folks that have the not just similar interests, but that have a mission to really combat things. Because at the end of the day, like fuck the whole Twitch thing. Like, we got all these anti-trans bills, we got all these other things. There's a lot of like ongoing things. I thought the critical race theory discourse would be over with. Nope, we got that still going on. Like, there's just so much that has really like refocused me to really want to have this secure. This is not just about like, for me, it's not just about wanting this to be sustainable. Like, I'm transitioning from being a organizer and like activist and speaking, leading protests to like for my own safety. I'm on the laptop now and trying to really take those messages and my what I really want to like push, because at the end of the day, like we have an election next year, and I don't like this 4-year cycle. How they be asking us niggas. I'm sorry, let me not say that word. This is not FD stream. Okay, they be
no,
asking
you can
Black
say whatever the
people.
fuck you want. Just say whatever you want.
They'll be asking Black people to come out to vote, and it's the same shit over and over, and they do not like improve themselves. And it's like we're tired of this, so I'm gonna be one of the Black leftists to help kind of combat that and kind of help like get us closer to where we need them to be. So this is kind of like where I see myself, because it's pretty much like I said, after this purging, like I have an abundance of content and things that I can just dive into and just really like. I even want to make a video about why I'm not a commentary art channel. Like, I'm just not for
Yeah.
very specific reasons, and there's like that's a whole deep dive. But also to just also say I am gonna make a little appearance in this video, like actually show myself because not everyone follows me on Twitter, but I've been getting asked to like make a face reveal or show myself or just like talk, and so I'm gonna give them 30 seconds or about 30 seconds of me. So pop in. It's like the segue into like the cat situation, and then let's like, kind of like sit down, like, hey, this is a very serious thing. I need your undivided attention. Let's really take in this perspective, and then there we go. I gave you a piece of me. Back to art footage.
Nice. Just give
So
the people what they want, and now let's get serious.
yeah.
If you're when you do the anime stuff, you should reach out to Mo Black. Do you follow them on Twitter at all?
I would have to
Uh,
check. Sorry, I don't.
um, yeah, he I don't know if they're still making episodes, but he ran a podcast slash YouTube channel called Critical Weeb Theory, where he did like a leftist analysis of anime, and um, yeah, he's a good resource for that. I highly recommend him. He and his podcast partner actually were on the show about a year or two ago, and he does other videos and stuff about being like a black anarchist and other things. So seems like it might overlap. If you were definitely worth checking out, though. I always recommend Mo Black. Good content.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
check them out.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do the positivity and rebuilding stuff going forward. Do you have like any other like projects or things you wanna talk about, or I always like to try and like wrap things up on like a positive note if I can, because I'm such a doomer and I like to overcompensate. Like, where anything else that we want to like throw out there for hope and happy and sunshine in the future that you're doing, or just anything,
Um,
whatever you want to talk about?
yeah. So, I do want to do like a trans video that isn't just about the doom and gloom, but also just like leaning towards like radical self healing.
Hmm.
The need of that, and really just trying to like, because at the end of the day, we're gonna have to have a lot of endurance, but 'cause we're gonna be surviving this. But I want to give hope, and I want to help show that, like, yeah, we need to be strong, but also it's okay to have a moment and not be engaged or not to know what new thing comes out. It's kind of really like, kind of show that we can have a duality within ourselves. So I am definitely want to like explore that lane where I kind of like do more like ASMR, like art voiceover type, where it's not super intense editing, it's here and there, but just generally just kind of like a chill, and just like, really, I really do want to like reinvigorate, like bring back the pride with our community, because I feel like we had such a boost of joy with like the pandemic, and a lot of folks finding themselves and embracing themselves to like all of a sudden all these bills and things really sort of like coming out hard.
Yeah.
So it was like we had a grief moment of like, oh, people are figuring this out, enjoying this, and then it was like, you know, Republicans could not see us enjoy that happiness. So yeah, so I definitely agree with you on needing some content that's definitely not just inspiring, but just like giving us hope and
Yeah.
to keep us going. Because a lot of folks are really struggling out here. They're taking it really hard. And, if I was in a better situation, I could easily been like any other black trans woman. Like I was just, I was staying with friends for several months until I found the place I have now. And I got help through Twitter. Twitter is what got me this place essentially. I will thank you, Twitter. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, FD, and everyone that just really just like helped me. So, but yeah, so I really want to like, I'm saying another like a project is to really kind of like push the black trans discourse to really not just like, not to be like sad to like care about us, like no, like not just care and bring your knowledge, but like have relationships with us, like have connections, like be like we're comrades. So I really wanted to make more, I would say, as I would call it a conrad like content.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely looking forward to that, and I hope you get. I hope next time we talk, you're at like 100K subscribers, and I'll come pestering you to come back on my show, and I'll have to beg you because you're too busy with all your collaborations that you're doing because you're blowing up. I wish you all the best and luck with that. I really do.
Thank you. maybe, possibly. I don't know. For a small channel, I would say I am doing pretty good for 3 videos.
Yeah.
Nothing under 4K. I'm good. So I appreciate that, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, I think that might be a good spot to tie things up. Soulbunni, do you want to like plug all your pluggables and tell everybody where they can find you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Soulbunni. It's Soul and Bunny with an I, not Y. And I also have a Patreon, especially by the time of this first video comes out. It's going to be my first time pushing Patreons because I've been really lucky to be getting patrons without even me ever really shouting it out. But now that I'm serious, I'm going to include it in a video. I have that. So if you want this, if you want to hear more Black trans voices and just actually this discourse to be alive and stronger and have a chance to survive in this ecosystem, you can support my Patreon at low as $2. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And all those links will be in the down there part in the show notes. So be sure and check them out. Soulbunni, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.
Thank you. I had a great time too. I look forward to our next conversation potentially.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Right. Later. Hey there, folks. Mark Edwards again, and I just wanted to thank you once again for listening to not only this episode, but this channel, this podcast in general over the years. I've really appreciated your support, especially all the patrons, and I just wanted to say thank you one last time. Once again, if you haven't already, go follow the alt account medkits101 on Twitter. So that you can stay updated with that project as it gets going. My goal is to have that finished by the end of the year. It's a pretty dense project. I'm basically writing a textbook, and I have some other stuff going on in terms of like work and my financial situation. So I can't currently dedicate like both barrels to it, not yet. But I'm thinking end of the year is a pretty good bet for when that'll go live. So go subscribe to that channel. That's where I'll be on Twitter mostly. If you want to follow me, continue to follow me, and that is where I'll be. That's my new home on the internet. Please go and subscribe to Soulbunni's Patreon and subscribe to her YouTube channel as well. And go subscribe to all of the Patreons of all of the people that I've had on this show over the years, and thank them for their support. They've been wonderful guests, and the show wouldn't exist without them. So if you've ever enjoyed the show, go show some love to the people that you enjoyed while they were on it. Also, don't unsubscribe from the channel immediately. We have some more stuff coming. I am going to be doing a charity stream in the next month where we're going to try to do something to change somebody's life materially for the better. I'm going to burn all of my YouTube clout. I am going to be in the DMs of every motherfucker that I've ever had contact with one way or the other, pestering them to come on. Not just everybody who's been on the show, but all the people who were going to be on the show, and like their cousins and uncles and like anybody who they said hi to on the street while they were walking to the corner store, right? Like I'm going to be up everybody's ass, making sure that we've got as deep of a bench on that list, that guest list, as we can get, so that we can actually make a difference in somebody's life. And I think that will be something that I can be proud of, to say that I at least spent my time and effort trying to do something materially productive for somebody. And if I have to burn all my clout for that, what little of it I have, I think that's clout well spent. So that's what we're going to do. So stick around for that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure when it comes in, you watch and donate if you're able to do so. And I will consider that a personal thank you for having been here for this whole time. I'm not really good with emotional send-offs or goodbyes or anything like that, but just know that it's meant the world to me that you've listened this whole time, and I genuinely appreciate it, and I love you all, and thank you so much for watching and listening all this time, and I will see you around.